Hey all, Ron here from Military Images Magazine with a new episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail. I want to talk about this image, which is an unpublished, believed to be unpublished view of Raphael Semmes, the Confederate Rear Admiral. His likeness turned up in Mobile, Alabama, at the History Center there. And the way Cliff Cranick, who is the author of the cover story in the latest issue of Military Images, describes it, he says he was in the museum and looking at the exhibits, a lot of material collected about Raphael Semmes, since that was his adopted home for much of his life. And he turned around and looked into one of the display cases, and there was this very, very small image. And he did something of a double take and realized, oh my gosh, this is an actual photograph of Raphael Semmes. And not too long after that, Cliff approached me about doing an iconography or a collection of visual images, photographs, engravings, paintings of Semmes for the magazine. And I couldn't resist because Semmes is an interesting guy from his early days in the Navy as a lighthouse inspector in the Gulf of Mexico. He studies law. He participates in the Mexican War and writes a book that, by all accounts, is a bestseller of his Mexican War experience. And of course, goes on to the Civil War and his role as the captain of the Sumter, which is a raider preying upon U.S. merchant ships, and then more famously taking over as captain of the Alabama. That's where he has his greatest successes. The Union labels him a pirate, which is not technically accurate. He goes on, he finishes the war, lands in Richmond right at the end of the war. Jefferson Davis gives him a temporary rank as brigadier general in command of the Naval Brigade. And then, of course, his life continues afterwards, and he continues writing, writes another best-selling book about his experiences in the Confederate Navy, and on and on. This image is super exciting because it is, as I mentioned earlier, the earliest known image of him. It's circa 1854, circa 1857. Got that slightly off a couple of years. And you'll notice that it's in a pendant, an ebony oval pendant with a gold bezel on top and a suspension loop. It's very small, about 1.5 inches wide and 2.5 inches deep. At that time, 1857, Semmes was a Navy commander, and that's when he was in the lighthouse service in the Gulf Coast. The theory is that he gave this to his wife, Anne, as a token of remembrance while he was away on his various assignments. That's not known for sure, but the fact that it's in a beautiful frame with a jewel on top of it, or a necklace attachment, you could certainly see it be worn as a piece of jewelry by his wife. So it remained in the family until the 1970s, when it made its way to the History Museum in Mobile, where it is today. In order to get the copy of it that you're seeing here, to get all the detail, we hired a professional photographer, Jeff Tesney. He's a local photographer in Mobile who made that image happen. And I'm very happy to Jeff for doing that for us. And the result, if you go check out our latest issue, you'll see it on the cover. In fact, I've got the link to the story below, so you can explore Semmes's entire story and about 50 images or so of him at various points in his life. Again, the author, Cliff Cranick. Cliff also wrote a very compelling description of Semmes, and I want to read that to you because It gives you a flavor of the man and his physical description and how people saw him. So here we go from Cliff Cranick's cover story in the latest issue of Military Images magazine. Cliff says, quote, two physical characteristics of Semmes, noticed by every acquaintance, were his penetrating gray, wolf-like eyes and his signature stylized 17th century Van Dyke mustache with ends curled up into tips, reminiscent of a seagull in flight. Semmes, or his steward, carefully maintained its shape by applying beeswax, which earned him the endearing name Old Beeswax by his crew. Though Semmes's mustache has often been compared to those of King Victor Emmanuel and Kaiser Wilhelm II, I contend, this is Cliff contends that it inspired Walt Disney's legendary pirate, Captain Hook. Cliff goes on, Semmes was a courtly Southern gentleman, fastidious in his personal appearance, in uniform or out, as testified by his photographs. His refined manner served him well in cultured soirees where he could discuss literature and savor musical interludes. He enjoyed the company of lovely women and could be sociable, even jovial, with friends. A pious Catholic, a product of his Maryland heritage, religion played an important part of his day, which started and ended in prayer. In war, he was aggressive, shrewd commander who, like his contemporary Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant, did not waste words when business was at hand. Semmes was decisive, high-strung, and nervous. He was often seen in solitude, staring across the vast seascape while twirling the ends of his mustache in deep contemplation. So there you have the description of Raphael Semmes, and this photograph published, we believe, for the first time. So you're among the first to look at it, about 1857 in Mobile, believed to be given to his wife, Anne. So thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next episode of Life on the Civil War Research Trail.